I'm here to talk about addiction and my struggle in life for the past 15 years. My name's Robert Picard. Everybody else calls me Bobby, though. So at a young age, like addiction, I wasn't aware of it, right? So it was within my family, family members with alcoholism and partying and stuff like that. It was normal. That's how we grew up, family events and stuff. As I got older and aged and matured, I got attacked by a Rottweiler when I was young, going to school one day, and I was introduced to Percocets. And that's really where it set off. That led into, some robberies and stuff when we used to live up north in northern Arizona. And then I had spoke up, told my mom, grandma, and we moved back down to the valley. So I came back down to the valley thinking I was, getting away from something that was being created in my life as a negative at a young age. And it actually detoured me, back to that type of lifestyle. Because once those Percocets were gone, I developed a taste for heroin. And I met somebody, and I met my buddy. He's actually in the feds right now, a co-defendant. We were doing like a job interview for a telemarketing place, and he pulled up on us. We're rolling a blunt in the car, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? I just got out, da da da." So me and my buddy AJ, we were chilling with him for some time, and then a few weeks later, he hits me up. He goes, "Hey, you want to put in some work?" And this is when my addiction to heroin started coming into play, and I was like, "Let's get it, let's go." I was young, still in high school. So he pulls up on me. He's like, "Grab a pair of socks, wear a long sleeve shirt," So, all right, cool. I get in the car, and I found myself breaking into my first house, kicking in my first door, and doing that was very selfish, but it was really a faster way to get money to feel addiction, right? Because I graduated from Percocets to heroin real quick. It was cheaper. It was easier to find. So that led into a few years of addiction right there I was 21 years old at that point. And that turned into a whole lot more. I was really big into music when I was younger and traveling and doing stuff like that back and forth from California. But when I got a hold of that heroin, it really took over my life. And it was the grip, on addiction with using that. It was powerless. It was a way of life that I never knew, and I was stuck, and it was really a hopeless feeling. Um, so as we move forward in that addiction, that was in like 2010, right? And then me and my co-defendant James, we were kicking in 2 or 3 doors a day. Sometimes we made it a game. If you had like an ADP sign, like, all right, get in, get out. What can you get? Who's the winner? Like that was, man, how I can't even think of the word. Like how unresponsible was that? We're taking things from people just to feel an addiction, to get well. And it wasn't that. It got to a point where it wasn't even fun anymore, right? It wasn't a party. It just progressed and progressed to where it just had a grip on me, to where it's like, even though I wanted to do the right thing, I continued to go left instead of right, So when that happened, it really changed my life in so many ways. And at the time, like, it was selfish. And at the time, I didn't realize like I was affecting not only myself, but like everybody around me when it came to family, friends, or even my personal life or my dreams and my goals as I wanted to move forward in life. So this kept going. At first it was small. It was a small amount of heroin, but as it progressed and became more and more, like I got up to doing 4 grams of heroin a day, and then I learned what a syringe was. I learned how to use a syringe, and I remember that day. I'm not gonna mention the person's name that I learned how to do it with, but like I remember, like, hey, I want to try this, and I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, can you help me? Because I knew he knew what he was doing. So I go over his place. I remember it clear as day. This is something like I reflect on every day, because this is like a life-changing moment that I had when it happened. And once I learned how to use that syringe, it was over from there, man. Um, we, you know, as a younger adult, there was a few of us. We lived in a house on like 49th Avenue in Peoria. It was a group of us and living in my buddy's mom's house because she had moved out, and we kind of took over the house, and it just turned into a full-on party nonstop. Like, you know, that hustling and grinding, and at first things were good, but then as the opiates, the street life took over, so it went to shit real quick, excuse my language, but it went quick. There was no morals, there was no respect for each other, there was no respect for yourself as an individual, because it was always a party. Like, what was the next high, what was the next thing we were going to do to get money, right? Just to pay bills or have food. And the whole time we were focused on going out and putting in work instead of putting in work to get a job. Like, we put in so much work and effort to go out in the streets and like rob people, kick in doors. You know, I remember I would get connections from people like coming out from California bringing weed, or bringing whatever it was they're bringing out from wherever they're coming. Like, people would call me, like these youngsters that were younger than me would call me and be like, hey, I got a guy, he's got 3-4 pounds of weed, you want to get him or what? And I'm like, yeah, I got you, you know, I'll break you off the top, I got you. And we would pull up on these people and, you know, play dumb, like, you know, go meet in a parking lot, walk up to the car, get in the car, be like, okay, what's up, let me see it. And, you know, they'll pull it out and they would count it, like 1, 2, 3, you know, showing us how many ounces there were and how many things they had, or what it was, or what's the quality. And just, all right, put it in my bag, come, walk to me with the car, you know, I forgot my wallet over there, and just get in the car and take off. You know, just not even realizing the ripple effect that we were causing in another individual's life, because who knows where he got that from. You know, it really doesn't matter at this point. But like, on a business level, like, we probably put that dude in a wreck or in a position that he couldn't cover. So who knows whatever happened to him, you know? And that was a very difficult thing for me as I grew older and realizing those things, you know. Man, we used to, when Percocets were a big thing, like, we would take tinfoil and cut cigarette butts down and like have like the size of Percocets, and like 10, 20, 30 of them, and fold it in a tinfoil so it looked like a bunch of pills in there, right? And just go to a random apartment complex and be like, here, boom. They would hand us the money, however much it was, hand them that, and just walk off. Like, just walk away, just for the come up, just to get that money so we could feel our addictions, so we could feel our life, because we felt like we were coming up in the game, because we felt like we were doing something, making a name for ourselves. You know, all this negative energy, you know, and, you know, without a God or a higher power in my life. Like, that's how I was living all through North Phoenix, all through the valley, like in Phoenix. And, you know, like, that's how it was for a while. And then it came to 2010, that addiction got so bad. Like, I kept finding myself in and out of jail, unable to complete parole, or not parole, but probation. I found myself in 2010 around Christmas time. This is when my prison life, or prison career, as some would put it, began. Is I threw a brick through a double pane window over on like 91st Avenue and Bell Road area, and climbed through that window to open the door so we could pop the garage so my buddy could back in. And it was so low, like, we cleared this place out, like flipped the bed, computers gone, the Christmas presents under the Christmas tree, we took it. I found a pair of Corvette keys. There was a Corvette in the garage, like all the way down to these quarters, you know, like bicentennial quarters. It was like $1,000 worth. So we had it all. We anything that looked of value, it was in the car. So in that point, when that happened, like, this was probably the lowest point of my addiction on the streets, because I didn't have any drive to go to work. I dropped out of high school like 5 times. You know, I was carrying a gun. I thought I was cool. I thought I was doing a thing, like, and really I was lost. I was broken, and I had no vision of life. Like my dreams for music were just evaporated. You know, like so many things were just lost in this addiction. So back to being in that house, we go into the garage. My buddy's in the garage, my co-defendant, I should say, in the garage loading up the vehicle, right? And I come in the garage. I had these Corvette keys. I hit the button, and it goes. The car goes toot toot. I'm about to get in the car, and the garage door pops. We hop in the car. I'm ducking in the back seat. We bust out of this garage and head up, 91st Avenue, mob over the intersection, like the curbs, and going up Bell Road to get to where he's at, where he stays with his lady. And instead of ditching everything, like we go to his apartment, and this is where my whole justice impacted journey begins, I should say. And we're in his apartment for a little bit, and we park right out front. We're in the apartment for a little bit. We got alcohol, weed, we got dope now. We're in there getting high, and he gets a phone call, and it's a detective. It's a police officer, and I'm thinking like, what? And then he doesn't answer, so they send a text. They're like, hey, we're surrounding the apartment right now. We need you to come out. They didn't know I was in there because I ducked down as we took off, because that owner of that house like followed us and chased us, right? So when we're in that apartment, like we're tripping and we're trying to figure it out, and we come up with this elaborate plan. I had a grandmother that lived in the same apartment complex, and then my other grandmother had dropped me off earlier in that day before I met up with them at the QT right across the street. So I walked over there. So we came up with a whole plan like, hey, when my grandma dropped me off, I'm going to see my other grandma, and I just walked over here. You just got here. We had enough money. We had enough things, I should say, to get money so I could bail him out. So the idea was, he's going to take the fall. He's going to go in. I'm going to go and figure out how to bail him out. So what happened was, it came to the point where we finally opened the door, hands behind our head, fingers locked. We're walking down the stairs backwards because we're looking out at every single window, and you got the I think it was like Peoria PD, and they got us surrounded. Like, you know what I mean? The minute we opened it, there's like, they got the assault rifles, the lasers on, everything, right? So we walk down these stairs backwards, and the minute we're on the ground, we got the K9, going at our head. And it was intense. So when that happened, we went through that process. We got in the car. I'm pushing the line of the story, the whole story, and we get over to the Peoria precinct, and it so happens that they were gonna release me. My family's in the parking lot, and they were gonna let me go, but there was a detective there, undercover lady. She would not leave me alone, and she got me. She hooked me. So that's the first time I went in, and that's the first time I seen the Matrix. That's the first time I was introduced to, the system. At 21 years old, I get bailed out. I'm out on bond. I get a DUI. I sell into an undercover a couple times, and then I go to get sentenced on February 22nd. I get sentenced. I go in. I get page 2, and I ended up with 2.5 years my first time. So I left opiates behind at that time, and I graduated, I would say, to meth, and that's where my meth addiction started. And I didn't really care about anything. I was young, and that's what I was focused on. So I went in, I got in the mix. I was living that life. I got out. I was out 6 months and went right back to it because I had no direction, no purpose. I had no feeling of being accepted in this life. Blatantly have to say, like, my family, a very loving family, very supportive, but a lot of the lifestyle in my family, my dad being a biker, my mom, every holiday, every birthday, every event you could think of, 3-day weekend, whatever it was a party. We were celebrating. There was alcohol around. Weed was normal in the household. So like, that's what it was, and I remember early on in my life, my mom using and whatnot, but she, as I got older, or when I was born, I should say, I know she shifted and was doing better, but it was always a party. My stepdad was an alcoholic for years. He's in recovery now. Very thankful for that. My real dad, he's working on it. He's a alcoholic also, but he's doing real good now. and working on that. So as I grew up in the system, I should say, going in that first time, that 2.5 years turned to 13 years total because I had no direction, like I said in the beginning. And so I was in and out. I was out 6 months. I went right back in. It was Super Bowl Sunday of 2014. I went right back in because I was in and out of the strip clubs, doing the same thing, hanging out at the hotels, around, living that fast life, prostitutes, strippers, um, anything I could to get, the next high or the rush or the stuff we were doing. And I was so focused on drugs without having a purpose that I was only out for a year that second time. So I went in the third time and I put a little effort into it. I took classes that third time and whatnot. Or no, that was the second time and whatnot. So when I came out for that next year, 7 years ago, I was good for a little bit. I stayed with my mom and whatnot. And then I ended up moving from Surprise, where they stayed, in with one of my uncles out in Sunny Slope. And if you know Sunny Slope, then that's all I have to say. So we were out there, me and my uncle are sharing a 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm still working on music, trying to do music. My mindset's not in the right spot. So I ended up getting high again and going through a lot of the same things after about a year or so. So I started slipping, and my PO's on my helmet. I'm in the streets again, running around, hopping from hotel to hotel. I'm pretty much doing anything and everything I can to make sure rent's paid so I have a place to live. But I'm just focused on being around the wrong influences and the wrong people in my life at that time, to where that ended quickly. I ended up getting another DUI, my third DUI, the last charge I ever got. And I thought I had it figured out. I don't do the field test, right? I'm gonna take my blood. I've done this before. It's gonna take you 8 months to figure out what's going on. And that was that. So I thought I had it figured out. So towards the end, I'm going in and out of probation court at this time. IPS. I'm on IPS. So I got a week schedule. I gotta write a schedule where I'm gonna be at, what I'm gonna do, how I'm doing it. And that was all faulty. Like, everything I put on there was not correct. I wasn't following it. I didn't care. I was pissing dirty. I pissed dirty like 36 times because my visions and my thoughts were driven by myself, were driven from within and not from a higher power that I have today. It was how I'm gonna do it and what I want, right? So I'm in and out of court, and the fifth time I go in, the sixth time I go in, and I'm 160 pounds soaking wet. 160 pounds. I'm 6'2". So I'm a poster child for methamphetamines, right? I go in, and the judge is really gonna try to reinstate me for the sixth time. And this is where I witnessed a change in my life. Is I took a stand, and I took that first step, you could say, and admitted that I was powerless. And I revoked my own probation, knowing at that point that I had a 15-year case pending for my third DUI. So I revoked my own probation. I go back to county for 2 weeks, and I go right to the yard. I'm on the yard for about a year. I get grand jury indicted, 4 counts of aggravated DUI. And it's crazy because if you remember, I mentioned February 22nd. We're fast forwarding years later. February 22nd is a big number, or a big day in my life, and it just continues to pop, right? Little brother's birthday. It's the court. Every time I've ever got sentenced, it was on that. It's just ironic. So years later, I get grand jury indicted on February 22nd, and we almost get in trouble too, because I got one guy doing my neck tats, and my cellie's in his cell. He had to go to medical for him, and it was a whole thing. And then quarterly's pop. But I get grand jury indicted, so I get rolled up. I go back to court. I sit in court for 7 months until they said the best they could do was 6 to 15 years. And then after the 7 months, I just got tired. My family was showing support, friends, people I didn't know, people showing up, like, showing the judge that I am a good person, that I'm worth it, right? I lean over to my lawyer, and I was like, look, I will not sign 6 to 15 but I'll sign 6 to 10 right now with no probation till. His exact words was like, your mom's gonna kill you. And I was like, I understand that, but it's not for her. It's for me. It's a choice for me to change my life. And that really hits home, because that's where I took a stand to understand that I was powerless over a drug, over a substance that really wrecked my life. And it was difficult. But so when I did that with my lawyer, the craziest thing happened. I've never seen this. The judge is like, the prosecutor attorney, my lawyer, me, and the judge, he takes us into our chambers. And this man, I don't remember his name, but you know what I mean? I'm so thankful for this moment. He goes, all right, Mr. Picard, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to do? I said, check this out. I said, I'll sign 6 to 10 right now with no probation tail, because apparently I cannot complete probation papers, whatever, unless I'm locked up, incarcerated, or in county. I've never been discharged from papers at all on my good standings. It was on a technicality, right? Because I was incarcerated, time served, so they have to let me off. So I was like, I'll sign 6 to 10 right now, and with no probation tail, and we can get on with this. And he looks at me, goes, all right, I'll give you 7 years, and we'll get on with this. My life really changed drastically in that moment, because I finally felt like I was getting to a point in my life that I could let go and began to take the time to understand who my higher power was, what my beliefs were in religion or in my God, and it allowed me to move forward. So we go to sentencing, and a huge turning point for me that I was able to, like, I'm sitting in the holding tanks in the back, you know, the away from the courts while we're waiting for everybody to go through. I say a prayer, I go in, and everything shifted the moment the judge let my little brother and my sister come to the podium. And my sister was supposed to talk to the judge, but she turned around and told me she forgave me. In that moment, my whole life changed. In that moment, I made a commitment to dedicate my life to change and growth, to push through. So we go through the whole thing. Multiple people talk, friends, family. My dad shows up, and me and my dad, we have a good relationship, but it's been in and out my whole life. And I love him dearly though. So I get sentenced to the 7. I get onto the yard, and that's where I began making changes. I wasn't perfect at first, you know, it was a little rocky. You laid low though. I made little goals, you know, short-term, mid-term, long-term, daily, whatever it was. I made goals. I started building a structure within. I got introduced to programming that was new. I signed full IHP because I was done. I didn't want no part of what the system used to be. So for me, that was a statement to show that I was done and I wanted to get away from that lifestyle. So I took the time to learn and grow. At first, I was asked to speak in classes, and I was like, nah, I ain't talking. Like, I'm a shark. I'm not a minnow. Like, if I tell these guys who I am or what's going on, absolutely not. But if you fast forward through the 6 years and a month that I just completed about a year and a half ago, I became a peer facilitator. I took over 33 programs in prison, from triple P parenting to self-studies, to thinking for a change, offenders behavior, construction tech. I got into college. I was working on my associates for sociology. I got to the point where I was doing I was facilitating classes. I was doing orientation for the new guys that came to the yard. You know, I got to experience all that, and it really helped me in my recovery, my journey. I came home. Like I said, I've been home a year and a half. I've been able to stay focused. The 15th, today's the February 9th, February 15th, I'll have 30 months clean and sober. I'm dedicated to everything I have going on in life. My interlock was removed. I had to do for a year. I think I got about 25 days right now left on parole. March 5th will be the first time ever that I complete parole. Um, like in good standings, no violations. I've showed up to every meeting. I've pissed every single time. I have all my family back. I have a full-time job. I have things that I never thought I would have. I mean, come on, I'm sitting right here, you know? And it's all because I finally realized what trusting the process really meant. I've been able to sit back and understand that trusting the process is full-heartedly giving myself to God and allowing Him to let me live a life worth living. And it's just amazing. So many blessings. You know, I just want to say before I get out of here is, if anybody's struggling in addiction, if anybody thinks you can't speak up or be vulnerable, please speak up. Please be vulnerable. Please ask for help, because it's all right. Because I know what you're going through. And I just want to encourage anybody that sees this or gets to listen to this to make that first step, because you're worth it.